When a couple finally adopts a baby that they've always wanted and longed for, it's a magnificent moment. A new family's just been formed. But what happens when the baby's all grown up and now wants to know their origins, who their birth parents are, and their medical history? It's information that many of us have immediate access to. But for adoptees, that crucial information is often sealed. On today's show, we will be talking about adoptees and their right to know. We'll meet one adoptee whose birth records were sealed but searched long and hard for her birth parents. We'll also meet a birth mother who gave up her child for adoption when she was just a teenager, and we'll find out how she found her daughter. And we'll learn why some organizations are opposed to opening adoption records. But first, my next guest learned she was adopted as soon as she could talk, and when she turned 20 years old, she decided she wanted to know who her birth parents were, but was denied that information. Joining me now is Bauer. She's author of The Sound of Hope, a true story of an adoptee's quest for her origins. Thank you so much for being here. So at what age were you adopted?
I was 10 days old when I was placed with my adoptive family.
And at what point did you decide that you wanted to know about your birth parents?
I always wanted to know. I always knew I was adopted, but that's all they would tell me. They said, "Ann, you're adopted." And I said, "Well, who were my birth parents? Who was my birth mother?" "We can't tell you that. We don't know." And I never knew. And I always had that curiosity throughout my entire childhood and into my adulthood.
So there was never that sitting down with the story about adopted babies and being told you were special? Or...
Oh, yes. I was told I was special, but I was also not told the questions that I asked. And I just wanted to know simple questions. Who was my birth mother? What did she look like? What are my nationalities? I grew up not knowing that information that every other person grows up with knowing.
You talk about in your book about feeling like you were split in half. What does that mean?
Because I felt a part of me was with my adoptive family, and I love my adoptive family. It's a wonderful family, and part of me is with that family, but I also know that I was born to someone else, to my birth mother and my birth father. So I always felt like I have a connection to someone else. I have other family, and they are just as important as my adoptive family, and I need to know all my family.
So at 21, you had a legal right to try and find out. So what did you find out?
I don't have a legal right at 21. I'm 42, and I still don't have a legal right in the state of New Jersey, as well as 42 other states across America. Adoptees do not have a legal right at any age. Whether you're 92, you still don't have a legal right to find out. I was lucky. I searched on my own, and I was able to locate my birth mother back in 1989. But had I not been lucky, I never would have found her. And today, I still could not find her.
So you talk about those 42 other states. First of all, let's go back to the reasons why you were given that you couldn't find out.
Because my records are sealed. I contacted the adoption agency that placed me. And
Is that public or private?
It was private. And I asked for any information. I asked for her name. They would not give me her name. They would not give me any detail. They gave me sketchy background information that gave me false information. They told me false nationalities, which after I found my birth mother and birth father, I found out I was completely different nationalities. They gave me some information, but it was just very sketchy, and they gave me no names, no information, nothing that I could use to find her.
Do you feel that she ever had a right to her own privacy, or why do you think that the records were sealed? I mean,
the records were sealed not because the birth mother asked them to be sealed. She was thrilled when I found her. She gave me up because she was young, she was poor, and she did not have the resources to take care of me. And she felt horrible having to give me up, but she knew that she was doing the right thing for me so I could be placed with another family. And she always hoped that someday I would come and look for her.
Did she not have some sort of right or recourse to put that information, say, in a folder or something with that private agency saying, I want to be found when she's 21?
Back in the 1960s when I was placed for adoption, no. Today, some agencies do it, some don't. A lot of the birth mothers, they're so shamed. Even today, it's not as bad as it was in the 50s, 60s, and early 70s. It's more open today if there's an out-of-wedlock pregnancy, but especially back in the 1960s. She was so shamed that she was pregnant and not married. And that's a big reason why some of them they sort of, wait in the shadows. They want their child, and then they also feel like they don't have a right to their child because this other couple raised them, and they feel they don't want to interfere. But my position is she's my birth mother. She gave birth to me, and I don't want her to be my mother like my mother was, who raised me, and my father who raised me. I'm not asking to replace my parents.
But you wanted a relationship with her.
I want a relationship, but we have a relationship today, and it's a beautiful relationship. And it's not a mother-daughter relationship. It's a relative. She's like an aunt or a grandmother to me, and we're very close. But she in no way ever took my regular mother, the woman who raised me.
What about your dad? Did you find him?
I did. I found him in 2001. And it was very difficult to find him because he was not living in the United States. He was living in the country of Mexico.
What was the reunion like?
It was wonderful because we look exactly alike. We're practically twins. And it was very good for the first couple of years, but his family was, they never accepted me. They had issues. His wife is Mexican, and he would always tell me that the Latin culture, they're very jealous, and they just never could come to accept me. So we keep in contact, but not as close as my birth mother. But I do not regret it. I'm very happy that I found him, and I think he's happy that he knows about me because he didn't even know that I existed.
Do you think each case is individual?
It is individual, but what's universal about each case is that adoptees should have access to their own information. My birth parents and my birth records is my information. If you wanted to get your birth certificate or information related to your birth, you would just go to the Department of Vital Statistics, write out your check for $25, and they would hand it right over to you. My hands are tied. I don't have the same rights that you do. I am denied access to my information. Even though today I know my birth mother and I know my birth father, I still cannot go into the Bureau of Vital Statistics and get my information. It's still sealed. And that is my information, and those are my rights that are being denied.
Okay. When we come back, a birth mom's story of how she found her daughter, and we'll also learn about a bill called the Adoptee Birthright Bill that would allow adoptees to learn their origins.